Well, I think it was a pretty extraordinary thing to do in the middle of a press conference to attack a media organisation like that.
What does it say about the Prime Minister to do that and then issue an apology at 11 o'clock at night on Facebook like a teenager?
We have had 5 weeks of this Prime Minister not listening to women.
Amid an ear-bashing from Labor, the PM paid the price for pissing off the country's most powerful media organisation. After first airing this false allegation...
You'd be aware, in your own organisation, that there is a person who has had a complaint made against them for harassment of a woman.
Eventually retracting on Facebook. Today, this explanation.
Blokes don't get it right, but what matters is that we're desperately trying.
As for his other problem, a toxic Parliament House culture where allegations of rape and sexual misconduct has fired up Australian women. The PM's now hoping a gender quota might fix that, even though historically the coalition is all about merit.
I think quotas are a problem because then people aren't always thought to be there on merit.
We want to see women rise, but we don't want to see women rise only on the basis of others doing worse. We've tried it the other way. It's not getting the results that we want to see. I would like us to see us do better on that front.
No, the more diverse voices around a decision-making table, the better decisions that they make.
Since Labor first introduced a quota in 1994, women have gone from 11% to 47% of their party caucuses across state and federal parliaments. Meanwhile, the quota-free coalition has stalled at around 25%.
I think 40% is a good target to have when it comes to quotas, simply because there's a bit of a rule around the boardroom table that 30% is a voice.
But there are still a few holdouts.
I don't support quotas because it's a dilution of democracy.
And according to Canavan, it won't actually keep women safe.
Are you saying that if we had 50%, just the members of Parliament, we're not talking about staff, just the members of Parliament, somehow there would no longer be bad behaviour? I don't see that as being very directly connected at all.
As the pressure mounts on the PM to clean up this house, is the solution more women or better men?
We did approach the Prime Minister, the Treasurer and, frankly, most of the prominent Cabinet Liberal Party women, but none of them made themselves available to us tonight. Labor's Tanya Plibersek did, and she's been good enough to join us now. So, Tanya, you're in an interesting position here because your timing, you joined Parliament about the time that Labor had just gotten into its gender quota. So you've seen a lot of the journey Labor's been through and it's almost reached its 50% target now. What difference would you say quotas made to the culture within the Parliamentary Labor Party?
I think it's made a huge difference. When I first started here in Parliament House, there was a bar. Now that's a childcare centre that members of Parliament and staff can use. More importantly than the culture inside the place is the impact we have on the community. Our policies around childcare, paid domestic violence leave, reducing the gender pay gap, superannuation for women. A lot of these policies are there because there are women to champion them inside the Labor Party.
And yet, for all that, on the sort of more hard-edged issues of sexual harassment, sexual assault around Parliament House that we've been hearing about, there have been complaints, both official and unofficial, anonymised online, against the Labor Party and also the Greens, who have more female representation along those sorts of lines. So what is it that quotas can't achieve? Like, can they deal, or how far can they go in dealing with those sorts of concerns?
No political party is immune from problems like sexual harassment, and I 100% agree with you. I think the really important thing we see is a Labor Party that's saying, please come forward. If you've got a complaint, these are the mechanisms that you use. We will back you, we will support you. We don't want this happening. Not to anyone in Parliament House and not to anyone in any Australian workplace. We need to make sure when we're talking about sexual harassment at work, we're not just talking about Parliament House, we're saying that every workplace should be safe.
Tanya, Australians have been absolutely shocked to hear about what goes on behind our parliamentary walls. Do you have any idea that any of this was going on?
I'm sad and angry about it, but I'm not really surprised that happens. I have been a little bit, gobsmacked really by some of the other reports. I just don't get. I mean, some of this stuff's just gross, and I just don't understand why people are masturbating at work. I'm sorry, I just don't get it.
I have no idea how to follow up on that.
But I was going to ask, though, we've been hearing from a lot of ministers saying that stories have been circulating for years. Had you heard the stories, even if you wondered if they were really true?
Look, it's a big workplace. You do hear stories about the meditation room being used for things other than meditating. I suppose really what I'm most concerned about, though, are the most serious allegations here. We've got an allegation of a sexual assault that occurred in a minister's office that seems to have been swept under the carpet and just treated like a political problem. Obviously, that's not good enough. We've got another very serious allegation of sexual assault against a senior minister that the government's refusing to properly investigate, wants, again, just to treat it like a political problem and sweep it under the carpet. That's just not good enough. Because if we do that, at the heart of our democracy, we send a really strong message that this stuff doesn't matter. If we want to be a country where women are safe at work, at home, on the street, then we have to take these complaints seriously when they happen here at the heart of our democracy.
Right, so on exactly that, The Australian has only just now reported that there's an expectation in senior ranks of the government that Scott Morrison's about to do a cabinet reshuffle, and in that reshuffle dump Christian Porter and Linda Reynolds, who are the two relevant ministers from their ministries, and assign those portfolios to other people. That's just the Australians reporting at this stage, and it's an expectation, not a fact. But if that turns out to be true, do you think that would be enough to move us past the current crisis?
Look, I think it's very difficult for either of those ministers to stay in their portfolios. But I really think if we continue just to treat this like a political problem to be managed, we're not getting to the heart of it. At the heart of this is a profound disrespect for women, and we've got to deal with that. We've got to deal with the fact that there was a sexual assault in this building that allegedly occurred in this building that has just been treated like a political problem to be swept under the carpet.
But we shouldn't assume
moving
that
the personnel around.
We shouldn't assume that's necessarily just a political response. Might that not be the beginning of a genuine engagement with the issue?
Well, when the Prime Minister honestly answers questions about whether his media unit have been briefing against Brittany Higgins' loved ones, when the government honestly answers questions about who knew what when and why this hasn't been investigated fully, when the government answers questions about why it refuses to have an independent inquiry into the allegations against Christian Porter, then I'll believe that they're actually interested in getting to the heart of the problem.
Tanya, thank you very much for speaking with us tonight.
Thank you.
With so much content online, it's sometimes hard to keep up with it all. And let's face it, who has the time? The Project YouTube has you covered with the stories that matter. Hit subscribe for a daily list of the news that you need to know.